Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to go through a preliminary earthwork takeoff example and show you how to do a takeoff in Civil 3D for a residential project. So let's learn. So let's get started with this takeoff. We have three different types of takeoffs: a conceptual takeoff, which is very rough and preliminary, what we're calling a preliminary takeoff, which is what we're going to do today, and then a construction document takeoff, which will be more refined and towards the end of doing a grading plan. This is a residential project. We've already gone back and forth with the client to get the house situated and kind of elevated where they want, and we want to see what the earthwork takeoff is to see if we need to make any adjustments. We've kind of skipped over the conceptual takeoff for this project because it was more important to get the house and everything situated the way that the client wanted, but typically with a commercial project we'll do a conceptual takeoff, which is just way more rough and just kind of making sure that we're ballparking the finished pad at the correct elevation. So let's get going with this preliminary takeoff. So first of all, I can tell that our styles aren't in here because I don't see a piece of text with our styles on it. And essentially to do this, here's our styles file. You literally just drag and drop this in. And for some reason that didn't work today. Let's try that again. There it goes. And there's a bunch of styles in this drawing, which since we dragged it and dropped it into this drawing are now part of this drawing, but the only piece of text in the drawing is that piece of text. And that way when you see this in here, you know that the styles have been brought in. So first we need to start by creating an existing surface, and I'm going to use the ZX command, and I'm going to isolate some of these layers. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and then use my filter command, quick select, and I want to just make sure that nothing is on the 0. So I'm going to filter for polylines with an elevation of 0, and it looks like there are none. Let me double check and make sure that's not. Yeah, that's not. Okay. So in order to do this, we're going to bring this prospector over here. Surfaces, create surface, and we're going to do a 10 surface. You can just type EG. Description, I usually don't type anything. The style, you want to select, this is what was brought in. So I'm going to do Civil Logistics EG. And so now we have a surface there, and then definition. And we're going to define it with contour, so I'll right click and hit add. And then again, I typically just leave everything default there. Select those items, right click, and then it creates a surface, and then I'll put that surface on the CZ10 existing surface layer. So I'll put it on that layer. And if we go back to the existing condition, we can get to that existing surface by typing CS and then E for existing, T for 10, ET, and there's the existing surface. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the grading plan again, and let's do that same process again. So under surfaces, I'll right click, create surface, PG. The style is going to be CVLX PG, and then we've made a surface definition, and let's also do one more thing. Let's go down here to the limits of disturbance, and actually that's probably pretty good for the purposes of this takeoff. I'm going to copy this over 30 units to the right, and I'm going to put this on the data, proposed data layer, and CSPT for proposed 10. We should change that so that that layer shows up. proposed data, move that back 50, and this we're going to use this as our boundary of where the grading is taking place. I'm going to bring this in a little bit. And I mean, we will eventually grade out here, but the contour lines that we've proposed so far don't go out there, so that's why we're making it a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'm going to isolate these contour labels, and looking at the elevation, and it doesn't look like they're on the proper elevation, and I think that's because they're a spline. Now, on this particular project, we did a spline just so it looked nicer, but we really need to have a polyline, so I'm just going to draw a rough polyline, and this elevation is 1166, so I'm going to just type in 1166 for that elevation, and I'm manually just going to make some polylines on this. And this is going to be fine for a conceptual or a preliminary takeoff. In addition to these lines, I can also use this command EG to match elevation. And now when I select this, that's on the proper elevation. EG, these three are 64, that one's 62, and that one's 66. So let's put these on. Since I don't want to have these contour lines showing up on my grading plan and making it look ugly, I'm just going to put it on the proposed data layer. Okay, and I'm going to go back over here. I want to define this surface with some contours. So I'm going to pick Add and grab these contours here. Add that to the surface. Also want to add a boundary, so I'll right click there and type boundary. It's an outer boundary. You could also do inner boundaries or hide boundaries. But this is just going to be an outer boundary. I'm going to pick that. And then I want to add these spots. So we've typed in these spots. It looks like the elevation is currently 0, but I want them to have that elevation of my text. So I'm going to grab those, grab one, type SSA to select them all, and then I'm going to type the command BElev for B elevation. And my hundreds digit, so these contours need to be 1164, but I'm only showing the 64 or the 62. My hundreds place is 11, so this is asking what's the hundreds digit? It's 11. And then it should have read the text on here and added 1100 to the elevation of 64, and that's correct. So off here to the side, it's 1164.5. So since I put that the hundreds digit was 11, it added 1100 to that elevation. So now all of these spots have the actual elevation there, and I'm actually going to move this back a little bit. I made a polyline around the house. Okay, so let's add some boundaries. Where are objects? PG, definition, break lines, contours. I think that's drawing objects. Add. Oh. Let me fix that. Blocks. I'm adding blocks. And let's see if I can do SSA. No, I need to select these individually. Let's do this and start over. Add blocks. Okay. Grab those. Looks good. So that modified our surface a little bit more. And then this boundary around the house is going to be, the house is 65. They're doing a crawl space, so it's going to be probably at least a foot down for the floor joist system, then 2 feet of space, so that's 3 feet, so it should be at least 62. Maybe it should be a little bit lower than that. Maybe we'll do 61, 1161. And you know what? When we did these spots originally, they didn't tell us it was going to be in a crawl space, and they just told me that the other day. So I assumed this was going to be on a slab, and so I put this a half a foot below the house here. If we're going to put it up on a crawl space, then let's just set this at what we thought the slab elevation was going to be, and then maybe the house could stick up 3 feet above what that elevation was. So 11, let's put this at 1164, and then we'll see how the takeoff works. Now there's something funky going on here. This spot we might have missed. No, it says 1164.5. Oh, that block, that's a problem there. 1164.5. See if there's any others of these in the drawing that we need to. That may have been the only one. Drawing objects, add blocks. I'm going to add this one to the drawing. Rebuild. Nope, that didn't solve the problem. If we hover over, it should give us the elevation. 1118. That's 1164. 1118. This spot here, 61. Position here says 1164, which appears to be correct. What is it over here? 1103. I'm just going to add these again. See if that might solve the problem. That one and that one. And it did not. Alright, well we got to get this fixed. So if I click back on drawing objects, I'm going to delete this extra data down here. That didn't help. And that went away. So let's try this again. 1164, 1164.5. Drawing objects, add blocks. Let's grab that chunk. These. And looks like that might have worked better. And so this we'll put on the CZ10 proposed surface right here. Go back to the grading plan, and then we can do CSPT for proposed 10, and then it shows this surface that was just created. There's a little bit of funkiness here because we didn't clearly define where this garage ended and where this house begun. But if we hover over here, that's 64. This should be 64 and 63. Okay, so let's do a quick takeoff. If we come up here to Analyze, Volumes Dashboard, and I'll bring this over here, we're going to do a new surface, and it's a Volume 10 surface. The name, usually just do volume. The style, come in here and pick the volume surface, and then the base surface is always going to be your existing surface, and then your comparison surface is the proposed surface, and then the fill factor is going to be 1.15 always, unless you hear otherwise from a geotech engineer or something like that. Now we have a volume surface. We can come in here, go to our properties, right click, edit surface style, actually surface properties, and then go to definition, analysis. I like to make an odd number so that we can have one range in the center and then three more. So this one, we'll make it go from -1 to 1, and then 1 to 3, 3. So maybe we have to start at the high point. Let's do a big number. Go down to 4, 4 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to -1, -1 to -2, -2, -4, -4, to a bigger number. And then we'll pick colors. So the first one, I always like to pick, this is a pretty neutral between blues and reds, and then pick true color, lighten it up a little bit. And then cut, which are the negative, we want to make reds and orange, so I'll pick that one. Again, always go to true color, and then we can print it with the these colors shaded on the grading plan, and it's very helpful for the contractor. And then here I'll pick this guy, darker blue, apply, and then we can grab that, add legend, E for elevations, dynamic, select upper left corner, just put it in there. It'll look small here, but then when we go to our grading plan, it should show up normal size. And so I'm going to send this to the back, and then we can see the grading on top of it. We can go here, let's move this volumes analysis back over here. So we can see we have cut and fill. So we have a little bit of fill dirt. We really would rather have some cut, especially on residential projects, because if you have cut, that means you've cut more than you filled, and if you've cut more dirt, then you have the option to fill it, but you just haven't chosen to fill it yet. So you have extra dirt left over. You can always mound up the dirt, create a berm, fill in low spots. Easy to get rid of extra dirt, but if you're short on dirt, then you have to buy it. So we'd rather have a little bit extra cut. I think my guideline for residential projects is 200 yards of cut per acre of development, and this one's going to be pretty close to an acre, so our goal should be about 200 cubic yards of cut, but we have 300 yards of fill, so we're off by 500. So we really need to lower this whole area down by 500 yards, and which actually works to our benefit. I'm going to select this surface. Oh, I need to go back to model space. Select the surface. I forgot to put this on the proposed 10 volume layer. Oops, I just put it on the wrong layer. Put it on the volume layer. And so now if I go to the grading plan, that doesn't show up, and then if I go to VT for volume 10, then that shows up again. But let's make some adjustments here so that we can put this thing on a crawl space, which will push the earth down in the center, which is what we want. So if this thing was going to be 65, let's assume that we have a 1.5 foot floor system underneath there, and then 2 feet of crawl space. So that's 3.5 feet. So maybe the ground below here, 65 minus 3.5 is going to be 61.5. So I'm going to set this one on 1161.5. But let's fix this thing over here at the same time. And then $1161.5, and then let's do one for the garage slab, which is actually going to be higher in elevation because they want it close to the elevation of the building. So if this is 65, this is going to be about 64. So I'm going to set this as 1164. And so this contour went from 1164 to 1161. I'm going to put this on the same layer. And just to get an idea, this area of the house is 0.08 acres. So if we have 0.08 acres and we raise that 1 foot, 1 acre, 1 foot is 1,600 yards, 1,611 yards, or 16, what is the number? I think it's 1611, 1613, something like that. So 0.08 acres times 1,600. So if we raise the house 1 foot, that'd be, or we lowered it 1 foot, that'd be 128 yards, but we're lowering it 3.5, so that's about 450 yards. So that should be fairly accurate, but now we need to fix these spots. So these spots are going to be 61.5. So we'll go around, fix this real quick. And this patio is not going to change because that is, the constraint is the house, and so they don't want this patio to drop down too much. So all that is still going to stay the same. But now this 62 really needs, if this is less than 62, the 62 needs to wrap around the other direction. So let's pick this up here, and we're going to come around the house this way, put this on the proposed data layer. You're normally not going to do this. I'm just doing that on this project because of these splines. Normally you're just going to keep them on your standard contour label. Elevation 1162, and so now we'll delete this one, and that one, and that one. That 60 can stay the same. Let's add some more information in here. So this is 60, that's 61, so this is 60. So let's make a new 60 contour that should come around to about like that. Elevation, I'm typing in the elevation off the screen in the properties tab, 1161, and then we have our 64 needs to change a little bit. So that part is going to stay roughly the same, and maybe it connects back there. Okay, that was 1162, and this is going to be 1164. 1164. Okay, let's go back to our surface. We want to change a bunch of things. So I'm going to click on the PG surface, then I'm going to go to the contours. I'm going to delete that data because we want to load different contours, and I'm going to delete the drawing objects, and let's delete these edits because sometimes edits can cause problems. So contours, add, and then we'll go back, drawing objects, add, blocks, CSPT for proposed 10. Okay, so you can see that it's different now. We need to add these two guys as contours, add, and that changed it again. So there's some funky stuff going on here. 63, 63, 62, 61. See, this should be 61.5. Let's delete that edit and let's see if that cleans it up a little bit. A little bit. Something weird is still going on there. I'm just going to add another piece of information there at 1161 and see if that helps to solve the problem. 1161. AutoCAD does much better with large areas of land and not as good with these small pieces of information. So that cleaned up all this, but there's still a little funkiness going in there. Let's reload this volume surface. CSVT, CSVT, and there's our surface. Let's look at the new volumes dashboard. So now we've cut a little bit too much. We'd like to take this back down a little bit, but now we know exactly what area, how much we want to change. So if we get back to 200, we have the house on a crawl space like the contractor told us. We go from 600 to 200, so we want to change 400 yards again. 400 yards divided by 0.08 acres, sorry, 400 yards times 0.08 acres is 32 divided by 1600. And if we do 0.08 acres times 1600, it's 128 yards for the house. If we raise it 1 foot, that's 128 yards. So we need to adjust another probably 2 feet. So we need to we did a little bit overkill, but part of that really could be some of these funky lines here. So before I make any other changes, I'm going to spend some more time, get this cleaned up by adding additional information, additional contours. But wanted to show you how to do a quick takeoff and how to make some adjustments, how to do add some surfaces, delete data, delete edits. So we've gone through all of those things, and hopefully this is helpful. And remember, this is the second phase of 3 types of takeoff: conceptual takeoff, preliminary takeoff, which was this one, and then a construction document takeoff. So thanks so much.